I'm showing 9 o'clock. Are you guys ready?
Ready
Yes,
to roll.
yes, Chairman.
All right. Good morning, everyone. This meeting is called to order. Mr. Trobman, has anyone signed up for public comment?
Good morning. We do not have anyone signed up for public comment this morning.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, Ms. Miller.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, good, you're here. I understand we do have a case of continuing jurisdiction for agenda item 3.
Yes, sir. That's correct. Commission Appeals is requesting a letter of continuing jurisdiction in case number 2470828. The case was voted on May 26, 2020 on docket 21, and the commissioners voted to have a rehearing in the case. Due to error on June 2nd, 2020, a decision was mailed affirming the decision. This decision was void from inception because it was mailed without your authorization. Commission Appeals is requesting a letter of continuing jurisdiction to set aside the erroneous decision and have the case reheard as ordered by the commissioners. Commissioner Demerson?
I agree with staff. We agree.
Thank you. Commissioner Alvarez?
I agree.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman?
Agreed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Let's move to tax liability cases. Consider those under agenda item 4. I believe we have one tax case on docket 27.
Yep. Yes, sir, that is correct. It's case number TD-20-074-0520. Commissioner Demerson?
I agree with staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alvarez?
I agree with staff's recommendation.
And Mr. Chairman?
Agree with staff recommendation.
Thank you. Agenda item 5?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Thank you, sir.
My computer decided to take a little pause on me. All right, here we are. We don't have any fair housing cases under agenda item 5 though, is that correct?
That is correct, sir. No cases.
And we'll move to agenda item 6. We have no wage claim cases pulled for additional consideration on docket 27.
That is correct. No cases pulled. You should have received the short form dissent list already.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on docket 27.
Chairman, I second the motion except for those cases on which I am dissenting, as reflected on the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 27.
And I concur with the chairman's motion except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 27.
That motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you.
Move to agenda item 7, consideration of unemployment insurance cases. You can, on docket 27, and you can proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. The first case is case number 2440344. Commissioner Alvarez?
The claimant's appeal should be deemed timely and the AT decision modified. The claimant checked the mail daily but did not receive the AT decision. Therefore, her commission appeal should be deemed timely. Even if the claimant does not have a good cause for AT2 and AT1, the record does not support the underlying disqualification. The claimant's husband moved in order to receive medical treatment. The claimant quit to move with her spouse. As the claimant quit to move with her spouse and gave the employer notice, she should only be disqualified for week 6. Deemed the claimant's appeal timely, claimant did not have good cause for the AT2, AT1, spousal leaving disqualification for 6 weeks. In the alternative, as the claimant missed the AT1 to attend orientation for a new job and missed the AT2 because she thought she had already registered for the hearing, I would also agree to find good cause for the AT1, AT2, and resubmit for merits.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. First, I agree with the timeliness finding. As to the good cause for missing the second hearing, the claimant failed to timely register because she had a lot going on. Thus, she failed to establish good cause for a non-appearance. As to the job separation, the available evidence supports a finding that the claimant quit for personal reasons and not for good cause connected with the work. We should therefore find the claimant's appeal to the commission timely and affirm the AT decision. The claimant did not have good cause for missing the AT2 and AT1 voluntary leaving.
Timely commission appeal, modify the AT. Claimant did not establish good cause for AT2 or AT1, quit to move with spouse, 6 weeks disqualification.
Thank you. Commissioner Demerson, any dissent?
Yeah, short form.
Yes, sir, I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Demerson. Next case is case number 2479326. Commissioner Demerson?
The AT decision is not supportable and should be reversed. The claimant was discharged after an investigation confirmed that she physically abused a resident. The claimant did not deny the allegations in testimony. In addition, the employer provided an Adult Protective Services abuse and neglect report from the Lubbock State Supported Living Center. The report concluded that the claimant did, in fact, physically abuse a resident. This documentation from a neutral third party charged with investigating such allegations should hold significant weight in this case. Therefore, the evidence establishes that the claimant mismanaged her position of employment. We should reverse the AT decision, misconduct, reimbursing employer not billed, adequate employer response.
The decision should be affirmed. A resident became upset while dealing with another staff member and began hitting and kicking staff. The claimant retrieved a pad designed for absorbing blows from residents and used it to prevent the individual from hitting or kicking. An employer witness admitted that the use of the pad may have been necessary. The claimant's actions did not constitute misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, bill reimbursing employer.
Reverse the AT, misconduct, reimbursing employer not billed, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. Next case is case number 2490680. Commissioner Alvarez?
The claimant's motion for rehearing should be granted. The claimant was discharged by the employer because she was arrested and charged with a crime. The claimant denied that she was guilty of the charges against her. Since the AT hearing, the charges against her have been dismissed, and the claimant was reinstated in her job. In the Commission President Manual is in Appeal number 2622-CA-76, which provides that an arrest on charges on which the claimant is found not guilty cannot be considered misconduct connected with the work. The claimant has clearly presented new evidence that was not previously available. Pursuant to the cited precedents, this evidence would change the outcome of the case. The claimant's motion for rehearing should be granted to allow her to make this evidence as part of the record. Grant the claimant's motion for rehearing.
We should deny the claimant's motion for rehearing. While the claimant submitted new evidence, it does not change the fact that her job separation resulted from proper application of the employer's policy based on the events at the time. Thus, since the new evidence would not change the outcome of the case and all three required criteria have not been met, we must deny the claimant's motion for rehearing, thereby leaving the underlying commission decision in full force and effect.
Grant the motion for rehearing.
Thank you. We will grant the motion and conduct a rehearing in the case. Case number 2490616. Commissioner Alvarez?
Okay, so Ms. Miller, can you read that case number again? Because that's different what I have.
Okay, I may have misstated that. 2492616.
Yes, ma'am. Great.
Wow,
The
I'm
AT
sorry for that.
Oh, that's okay. The AT's timeliness ruling is supportable. The claimant recently moved and changed her address with the commission. Despite the AT decision being sent to the correct address, the delivery of the decision was delayed. The claimant testified that she took the decision from the mailbox and faxed her appeal the same day. The claimant's petition to reopen should be deemed timely. Deem the claimant's petition to reopen timely and resubmit.
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant's testimony regarding timeliness of her appeal was riddled with inconsistencies and apparent contradictions. Thus, since the claimant failed to provide credible and persuasive evidence to overcome the presumption of receipt, her appeal is not timely, and we do not have jurisdiction to consider the underlying merits. Accordingly, we should reverse the AT decision. The claimant filed a late Rule 16 petition to reopen, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Timely petition to reopen, resubmit.
Thank you. We will resubmit the case. Next case is case number 2497173. Commissioner Demerson?
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant was discharged for his behavior during the final incident, which consisted of him shoving a postal worker. The claimant contends he did not shove the postal worker, but a video of the incident clearly shows the postal worker stumbling backwards after the initial contact with the claimant. The claimant further contends that he was not aware county policies applied to him while he was off the clock. However, this is not a persuasive argument to excuse the claimant from work-connected misconduct because the employer testified that the incident took place on employer's property, and the claimant acknowledged that he was wearing a cap with the employer's name on it. Moreover, the claimant admitted that he had parked in a no parking zone and that once he maneuvered his way out of the parking space, he got out of his car and continued to ask the postal worker more questions. This indicates that the claimant forewent an opportunity to end the incident and instead took action to escalate it. The claimant also admitted that he was charged with a Class C misdemeanor. In sum, the employer's testimony and description of the events that took place were more credible than the claimant's, and we should therefore affirm the AT decision, misconduct, reimbursing employer not billed.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant was discharged for an incident that occurred on the employer's premises with a third party after he had clocked out. The fighting policy the employer alleges the claimant violated only refers to fighting between employees. The employer has not presented evidence that the claimant was informed incidents occurring off duty could result in a discharge. There is insufficient evidence to establish he committed misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, bill reimbursing employer.
Affirm the AT, misconduct, reimbursing employer not billed.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. The next case is case number 2498206. Commissioner Demerson?
The appeal tribunal decision should be reversed. The claimant waited an unreasonable amount of time to notify the employer about a threat of workplace violence. The threat involved gun violence targeting a particular group of people. The claimant makes a variety of excuses as to why the delay occurred, but the claimant did not take all reasonable measures to convey the urgent message to the employer. First, the claimant, despite calling the employer multiple times, never left a message. In addition, the claimant stated that she did not email the employer because the employer never checks emails, but later testified that she emailed the employer after a meeting about the incident. If the claimant felt that an email was appropriate to summarize a meeting, then the claimant failed to exhaust that reasonable method of communication when trying to report the threat to the employer in the first place. In sum, the claimant's unreasonable delay of reporting the threat of violence to the employer, which could have resulted in severe consequences, constitutes misconduct connected with the work. We should reverse the AT decision, misconduct.
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant was discharged because the employer did not believe the claimant reported an incident soon enough to the doctor. Once a complaint was made on February 18th of 2020, the claimant immediately began investigating. The claimant testified to numerous attempts to try and inform the doctor in person and by phone, but unable to do so until February 25th of 2020. The employer has presented no evidence to refute the claimant's testimony. The claimant had worked for the employer for less than a month, never received any warnings, and the employer has not provided any policies or procedures that the claimant violated. The claimant's actions do not constitute misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct.
Affirm the AT, no misconduct.
Short form.
Thank you. Short form dissent for Commissioner Demerson. Case number 2499270. Commissioner Demerson?
I do not dispute the claimant filed a timely appeal. As to the job separation, the AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant was discharged for leaving earlier than what was represented on his time card. When the claimant supervisor asked the claimant why, the claimant responded that the lead told him it was okay to do so. Even if this were true, a reasonable person would know not to report that a full shift was worked when, in fact, it was not. Since the employer's evidence establishes that the claimant was misrepresenting information on his time card, he was discharged for work-connected misconduct. We should therefore find the claimant filed a timely CA appeal and affirm the AT decision, misconduct.
The claimant's appeal should be deemed timely. Mainframe shows that there was an address change initiated by the claimant during the appeal period. In accordance with longstanding commission precedent, The claimant's address change constituted a timely appeal. The decision should be reversed. The claimant was the only party to provide firsthand testimony. The claimant testified he left work when he was informed his shift was over and completed his time cards in accordance with the instructions provided by his supervisor. On the second occasion in which the claimant needed to leave earlier, he notified his manager and was informed it was okay. The employer provided only hearsay evidence to support their position. The employer has not provided sufficient evidence to establish misconduct connected with the work. Timely appeal, reverse the AT, no misconduct.
Timely commission appeal, affirm the AT, misconduct.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. Case number 2499435. Commissioner Alvarez?
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant made a good faith effort to participate. Therefore, she had good cause for her non-appearance. Regarding the job separation, the employer did not provide firsthand testimony to support their allegation that the claimant was using her cell phone for personal use at work. The claimant credibly and consistently denied the allegation. Additionally, the employer alleged that there was video of the claimant on the phone, but the video did not show the claimant using the phone. Further, the claimant's disagreement with the allegations contained in her prior warnings did not undercut her credibility. As the claimant's credible testimony carries greater weight, the employer has not shown misconduct. Affirm the AT, claimant had good cause, no misconduct, chargeback.
The AT2 decision should be reversed. Regarding good cause, the claimant provided the incorrect phone number when registering for the hearing. This was a circumstance within the claimant's power to control, and as such, she did not have good cause for a non-appearance. And the employer's evidence on the job separation fully supports a finding of misconduct. We should reverse the AT2 decision. The claimant did not have good cause for her non-appearance, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response. In the alternative, even if the claimant is found to have good cause, a finding of misconduct is appropriate. The claimant's testimony is internally inconsistent and contradictory to her fact-finding statements. She also self-disqualified as she concluded her testimony by stating that she wasn't the only person who used her cell phone for personal purposes while at work. Since the claimant violated the employer's cell phone policy after prior warnings, misconduct was established. Therefore, I would agree to modify the AT decision. The claimant had good cause for her non-appearance, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Modify the AT, claimant established good cause for AT1, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. Case number 2500308. Commissioner Alvarez?
The decision should be modified. The claimant was unable to continue working due to medical complications, and the employer allowed him to take off. The claimant was instructed to notify the employer when he was feeling better. A few weeks later, he received notification that his benefits had been canceled. He was still not physically able to work at that time. The claimant was discharged when the employer canceled his benefits. The claimant has submitted documents evidencing his illness. Since the claimant ceased working because of medically verified illness, he should be qualified for benefits and the employer's account protected from charge. Modify the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback, MVI.
The AT decision should be modified. I would agree to a vote of no misconduct, no chargeback, MVI, since the claimant was separated for UI purposes when he was removed from the work schedule for medical reasons. However, a memo should be sent to UIO and CS to indicate the claimant's ability to work.
Modify the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback, MVI.
Thank you. We have unanimous decision and a memo going to UIO and CS regarding the claimant's ability to work. This is case number 10 for today. Case number 2500691. Commissioner Alvarez?
The decision should be reversed. The claimant had only been working for the employer for several months when a client sent in 600 invoices dating back to August 2019. The claimant spoke with the vice president of the company. The vice president was aware that the invoices were sent regarding a dispute about tax charges and not to be paid. Rather than explain that to the claimant, the vice president simply said to double check everything. The claimant checked the 600 invoices and found 139 had not been entered. The claimant's normal workload was to enter 10 invoices a day. As it turned out, the claimant's former supervisor, who had trained the claimant, had entered the invoices under incorrect numbers. The claimant intended to check the invoices against the February statement, but someone else did so and found the error while the claimant was on vacation. While on vacation. The invoices were never paid. In accordance with Appeal Number 1181-CF-77, because the invoices were double entered as a result of errors caused by other team members, the employer did not carry its burden of proving that the claimant committed misconduct. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback, void adequate response.
The AT decision should be modified. The claimant double entered about $200,000 in invoices during the final incident. The claimant's testimony that she was not at fault for this error is not persuasive, since her testimony during cross-examination was inconsistent, and since her own witnesses' testimony tended to support the employer's position. Overall, the evidence established several key points. The claimant's job required her to reconcile the statements with the accounts. There were several ways to do so, and the claimant failed to utilize some of those methods, which caused the final incident to occur. Since the claimant was capable of meeting the employer's expectations in the past, her negligence after prior warnings constituted work-connected misconduct. We should modify the AT decision. Misconduct, no chargeback, sever, adequate response.
Reverse AT, no misconduct, chargeback, void adequate response.
Short form.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
Case number 2501818. Commissioner Alvarez?
The decision should be reversed. The claimant is a disabled veteran receiving a non-disqualifying payment from the VA. The claimant was unable to provide the proof to TWC when requested. The delay in the claimant's receiving paperwork appears to be due to the pandemic. The claimant should not be ineligible for failing to report when he was unable to provide requested documentation due to circumstances outside of his control. Reverse the AT, reporting eligible.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant testified that he did not immediately report to TWC as instructed because he assumed that he could not do so without documentation from the military. The claimant did not attempt to clarify his confusion with the TWC representative, and his prior interactions with TWC do not indicate that the claimant was given misinformation about his claim. Since the claimant could have attempted to contact TWC but failed to do so, it affirmed the AT decision, reporting ineligible from March 15, 2020 through May 2nd, 2020.
Reverse the AT, reporting eligible.
Short form.
Thank you. Short form dissent for Commissioner Demerson. Case number 2502489. Commissioner Demerson?
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant expressed to the employer via text message that she was going to start looking for work closer to home. The employer responded that it would need the claimant's official notice. Even though the claimant interpreted this as being told she was terminated, she testified that she was not verbally told by anyone that she could no longer go to work. Rather than clarify her job status by telling the employer that she had no intention of quitting, the claimant immediately tendered her resignation. Since the claimant resigned when scheduled work was available to her, she quit without work-connected good cause. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant was separated from employment after a text conversation with the manager in which she stated she would start looking for work closer to home. The claimant's text message clearly states she was merely looking for work and that she would let the employer know or when she found it. The employer responded by informing the claimant that she was to turn in her notice to quit on the next working day. The employer discharged the claimant by making an unequivocal statement that the claimant was to submit a resignation immediately. In accordance with longstanding commission precedent, the claimant's mere indication that she was looking for work was not misconduct connected with the work. The employer's demand that the claimant submit an immediate resignation was a discharge for reasons other than misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT no misconduct chargeback.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. Next case is case number 2502774. Commissioner Demerson?
The commission should grant a rehearing in this case. There is a dispute between the parties as to whether the claimant was fired or whether he voluntarily quit his job. The claimant stated that the employer's manager fired him. The employer's witness stated that the manager did not fire the claimant. In addition, the manager presented a statement indicating the same and that he did not have the authority to fire the claimant. As such, we should hold a rehearing for testimony from the employer's manager in order to adequately develop the record on the final incident.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant asked for time off in order to have surgery. This led to the manager telling the claimant that he was fired. The claimant then contacted the ethics officer and the HR director. The HR director told the claimant that the manager didn't have the authority to fire him, but then told the claimant that the employer had decided to fire him. The employer did not present firsthand testimony from the manager or the HR director. Therefore, the greater weight of the evidence indicates that the claimant was discharged for asking for time off to have surgery, which is not misconduct. As the employer has not shown misconduct, the claimant should be qualified for benefits. Reverse the AT, no misconduct chargeback.
I would concur with Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
Short form dissent.
We will
For rehearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Very well, thank you. Next case is case number 2504137. Commissioner Alvarez?
The decision should be reversed. The AT's reliance upon Section 207.045H of the Act is improper. There is no evidence that the claimant was given notice that he was required to report for reassignment, or that the failure to do so could lead to a denial of unemployment benefits. The employer did not appear to offer testimony on the subject and made no prior representations that the claimant was given notice of the requirements to report for reassignment. There is no policy regarding reporting for reassignment in evidence. The claimant testified that he looked for new assignments with the employer on the employer's app, and that the employer would contact him with assignments. Because the claimant was not offered work at the end of his assignment, he was laid off due to a lack of work and not due to misconduct. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, no overpayment.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant's testimony lacks credibility because it is uncertain and non-specific. As such, the evidence supports a conclusion that the claimant quit without work-connected good cause because he did not report for reassignment as required. We should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, overpayment of $511.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct, no overpayment.
Short form.
Thank you. Short form dissent for Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
This next case is the 15th case for this morning. Case number 2508355. Commissioner Alvarez?
The claimant was discharged for supposedly being intoxicated at work. The employer did not provide any firsthand testimony about the claimant's supposed intoxication, or any specific information about the claimant did not result in the conclusion that he was intoxicated. The secondhand information about the claimant's alleged intoxication came from the claimant's manager, who, by the employer's admission, had a grudge against the claimant and may have reported the claimant out of spite. The claimant provided credible testimony that the employer essentially agreed with, that drinking on the job was commonplace and specifically allowed by her supervisor on the final incident. The employer did not meet its burden to show that the claimant was discharged for misconduct. Reverse the AT, no misconduct chargeback.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant admitted to drinking on the job in violation of company policy after proper warning. She mismanaged her position of employment, and we should affirm the AT decision. Misconduct, no chargeback.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Short form.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
Case number 2509289. Commissioner Alvarez?
The decision should be modified. No misconduct, void chargeback. The claimant missed work with notice because his wife and daughter were sick. When he tried to return to work, his badge didn't work. He then contacted his recruiter, who referred him to the employer's office. The claimant then contacted the employer's office, but was not offered any additional work or told to visit the employer's office in person. Exhibit 2 contains two different policies that the employer had the claimant sign. The first policy requires that the claimant report in person for reassignment. The second policy only requires that the claimant contact the employer for reassignment. As the claimant complied with the wording of the second policy and was not offered additional work, the claimant reported for reassignment and should not be disqualified. Modify the AT, no misconduct, and void chargeback.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant admitted in his fact-finding statements that he did not go to the employer's office to report for reassignment, since he thought that the recruiter was sufficient. There is no evidence that the employer misinformed the claimant on how to properly report for reassignment. Therefore, since the claimant had received the employer's policy, his failure to report as instructed constitutes a voluntary quit without work-connected good cause. We should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, void chargeback.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, void chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. Next case is case number 2511273. Commissioner Demerson?
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision. According to well-established commission precedent, if a claimant was informed at the time of hiring that continued employment was contingent on passing a test, the claimant's failure to pass that test was considered the equivalent of misconduct connected with the work. Here, the claimant knew that in order to continue employment, he needed to pass the Police Academy's exams. Since the claimant failed these exams, despite being given multiple opportunities to pass, the claimant mismanaged his position of employment. We should reverse the AT decision, misconduct, reimburse an employer not billed, adequate employer response.
The decision should be affirmed. After failing a physical, the claimant was given the option of quitting or being terminated. Therefore, in line with commission precedent, the claimant's separation should be treated as a discharge. The claimant performed to the best of his ability, but was unable to meet the employer's physical requirements. As such, the claimant was discharged for his inability, which is not misconduct. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, and bill reimbursing employer.
I would concur with Commissioner Demerson.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. And case number 2512308. Commissioner Alvarez?
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant was discharged for absenteeism, but the final incident of the absenteeism occurred almost a month before her dismissal. The employer offered no reason for its delay in acting. Moreover, the claimant was a long-term employee whose final absence was the result of poor weather conditions and was therefore unavoidable. The claimant's actions did not rise to the level of misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback, void adequate response. In the alternative, I would agree to a rehearing in this case to develop the record as to why the employer delayed in taking action regarding the final absence.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. Because the claimant exceeded the allowable attendance points after final warning, the claimant mismanaged her position of employment, and we should modify the AT decision. Misconduct, no chargeback, sever the adequate response issue.
Modify the AT, misconduct, no chargeback, sever adequate response.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. Next case is case number 2513046. Commissioner Alvarez?
The AT decision should be reversed. The claimant was discharged for excessive absenteeism. Her absences were mostly caused by illness of her young children. Her final absence was caused by her child's medical evaluation, for which the claimant was provided medical documentation. The claimant's actions do not constitute misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, and no chargeback due to medically verified illness of a minor child. Void the adequate response ruling.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision because the claimant exceeded the allowable points under the employer's policy and provided no reason to the employer to explain her final absence. The claimant mismanaged her position of employment. We should modify the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, sever the adequate response issue.
Modify the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback MVI, void adequate response.
We're okay with that.
Okay, we have a unanimous decision. This is case number 20 this morning. Case number 2515182. Commissioner Demerson?
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant was discharged after 2 days of being no call, no show due to his incarceration. Although the claimant alleges that he was the victim of circumstances, his accounts of the events leading to his arrest seem far-fetched and highly implausible. Records from the Harris County District Clerk's office detailing the claimant's arrest and pending charges for family violence assault paint a very different picture of what happened and cast doubt on the claimant's credibility. The Commission should take administrative notice of these records. Regardless of the status of the criminal case or whose story we choose to believe about that fateful night in a hotel room, what is clear is that the claimant failed to handle his personal life in such a way that it would not interfere with his job. Thus, the claimant mismanaged his position of employment. We should reverse the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant missed work because he was attacked, injured, hospitalized, jailed, then ultimately released without bond. The greater weight of the evidence currently available indicates that the claimant was not at fault for his absences, as he was the victim of a violent attack. As such, the claimant should remain qualified for benefits. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Reverse the AT, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. Next case is case number 2518653. Commissioner Alvarez?
The AT decision should be reversed. The employer did not participate in the AT hearing. The claimant's supervisor asked the claimant to work while he was off the clock on a lunch break, which is a violation of the Fair Labor Standards Act. When the claimant protested, an argument ensued and the claimant was asked to leave. The claimant left as he was asked, and by the district manager later told the claimant not to return. Based on the evidence before the AT, the claimant was involuntarily discharged, and the employer has provided no evidence to establish misconduct by the claimant. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant alleges he was discharged, but the preponderance of the evidence indicates that he quit due to dissatisfaction with working conditions that he did not give the employer an adequate opportunity to remedy. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. And this is the last case pulled for discussion this morning. Case number 2522634. Commissioner Demerson?
We should void this claim because the claimant was not unemployed when she filed for benefits. While it is true that the claimant's hours were reduced, she continued to be paid wages equivalent to 40 hours of work. The fact that some of the claimant's wages were being paid from her PTO hours should not matter. By way of illustration, guidance on the TWC website states that claimants do not have to use paid time off before filing for benefits if laid off, but that if they are being paid their normal salary, they would not be considered unemployed. The guidance further addresses sick leave and states that the claimants who are on paid sick leave would not be considered unemployed. Here, the claimant was being paid her normal full-time salary. She was not unemployed when she filed her claim. Thus, this claim is not valid and should be voided.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant had a reduction from 40 hours per week to 20 hours per week, which constitutes a work separation under Section 201.091D of the Act. Moreover, the claimant is receiving PTO to cover the reduction in her wages. The claimant earned that PTO from her work performed before she filed the IC, and those earnings are therefore not attributable to the weeks since she filed the claim. The claimant filed a valid claim as partially unemployed individual and had a reduction in hours for reasons that did not constitute misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, bill reimbursing employer.
Affirm the AT, no misconduct, bill reimbursing employer.
Short form dissent, but in addition, since the TWC records indicate that the claimant is not reporting all wages received, work and/or PTO while making payment requests, we should send a memo to have UIO and CS investigate this issue.
Okay, we have a majority vote that the claimant is qualified to receive benefits. The reimbursing employer will be billed. Short form dissent by Commissioner Demerson and a memo to UIO and CS to investigate whether earnings are properly reported.
Got it.
That is the last case pulled for discussion under this agenda item. You should have received the UI short form dissent list already.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 27.
Chairman, I second the motion except for those cases in which I'm dissenting as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 27.
And I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 27.
This motion passes with the exceptions that are noted.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you. This brings us to the end of agenda items 3 through 7. Thank you, Ms. Miller. Let's pause for a few minutes to reset for the rest of the meeting. All right, are we ready to pick this back up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then let's move to agenda item 8, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding publication for public comment of proposed rules relating to contracts and purchasing 40 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 800.
Good morning, Commissioners and Mr. Cerna. This is Susan Durso. For the record, I'm Susan Durso, the Director of Procurement and Contract Services. Before you today, I have proposed rule amendments to Chapter 800 related to contracts and procurement. These rules are required by certain sections of the Texas Government Code. Section 2261-253 requires agencies to establish by rule a procedure to identify contracts that require enhanced contract performance monitoring. We have that policy and procedure in place. We just now need the rule. Section 2155-076 requires agencies to establish by rule procedures for resolving vendor protests related to purchasing issues. Again, we have that procedure in place. We need the rule. And Section 2252-202 requires agencies to adopt rules that promote compliance with the requirement that iron and steel products used in our projects be produced through the United States. And lastly, we have a rule amendment to 800.3 to correct a citation regarding historically underutilized business program and controller division references. If approved today, these rules will be published for comment in the Texas Register. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Comments or questions?
No, Chairman.
None here.
Do we have any motions?
I move that we publish the proposed rules for amendments to Chapter 800 regarding contracting and purchasing to the Texas Register as discussed by staff.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and we're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move to agenda item 9, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding publication for public comment of proposed rules pertaining to the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018 and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Employment and Training Good Cause Process. That's 40 TAC Chapter 813.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Cerna. For the record, this is Joel Mullins with Workforce Development. The Federal Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018 reauthorized the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program and made changes to the employment and training component of that program. The Act contains provisions that affect program administration, including changes mandated by the law and provisions that provide additional flexibility to states. To comply with the Act, TWC must incorporate the relevant provisions into our Chapter 813 rules, including clarifying language regarding case management and job retention services, an expanded definition of a work program as it relates to veterans, a clarification of the role of the employment and training provider in the good cause determination process, and the removal of certain services and addition of other allowable services. A policy concept was approved on January 2nd, outlining potential rule amendments, and was posted for a 3-week board comment period. However, no comments were received. This morning, staff are seeking direction on proposed amendments to the Commission's Chapter 813 rules for publication in the Texas Register for a 30-day public comment period. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any comments?
None here, Chairman.
No. Any motions?
I move that we publish the proposed rules relating to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program employment and training to the Texas Register as discussed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Alvarez, it's like announcing a football game in an open stadium. You have to, that echo gets me too. So
Can you all hear an echo?
I was, yeah.
Me too. I heard an echo on that one as well.
Yeah, it's kind of weird sometimes. The joys of technology on some days. Okay, let's actually, we're going to take up agenda item 10. Mr. Cerna, it's my understanding that we're awaiting additional guidance from the Federal Department of Labor and would need to not address this today and bring this back at a later time.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Staff would like to defer this item pending DOL additional guidance.
All right. If you give me just a second, I'm moving to the next item on the agenda. All right.
Chairman, how many computers do you have on?
Too many. Too many. This is going to bring us to agenda item 11.
He's going back and forth. You can see him go like this.
Discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding TRS 4-year review and amendments to Chapter 809. Also postponing this
Yes,
item.
Yes, sir, we're deferring this one. So we have item 12 next.
You know, I know that and you know that, but this computer is not agreeing with us. All right, how about this? Item 12, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding policy concepts on amendments to Chapter 806. That's 40 TAC Chapter 806, purchasing from people with disabilities.
Michael?
I need to unmute him, or he needs to unmute.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going
I've got it. I've got us now.
there he is.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Cerna. For the record, I'm Michael Hooks with the VR Division. Today I bring for your consideration and possible action policy concept related to amendments to Chapter 806 for the purchasing from people with disabilities program. The purpose of this rulemaking is twofold. One is to incorporate into rule requirements established by Senate Bill 753 from the 86 Texas Legislature regarding elimination of subminimum wage as a payment to persons with disabilities working in the CC or the PPD program. Second is to revise and add rule language to improve the effective operation of the PPD program.
I'm going to be listening to this one.
The policy lays out 12 issues for Commission consideration. I recommend that I present the 12 and the decision points to allow you to be able to take a vote on the entirety but I can certainly do it and have you take a vote on each one if you would prefer.
I agree with doing it in its entirety. All right.
I agree as well, Chairman.
All right, well then let's do it that way.
Super. All righty, so I'll start with issue number 1, requirements of the transition and retention plans, or TRPs. TRPs must assist the community rehab programs, or CRPs, in developing transition and retention plans, including how to refer to the VR program. We're seeking direction on amending 806 to include the requirements of CRP, the goal of full transition by January 1 of 2022, and expectations for compliance with the TRP. Issue number 2 is extensions of TRP deadlines and withdrawals from the PPD program. Senate Bill 753 allows but does not require TWC to extend deadlines for compliance. We're seeking direction on amending 806 to allow CRPs to request by March 1 of 22 an extension through April 30, 23. If the CRP has met requirements for extension as specified in Senate Bill 753, met the TRP requirements and requested technical assistance before requesting the extension. It also requires CRPs to notify TWC no later than March 1 if the CRP intends to withdraw from the PD program, and then allow CRPs to appeal if TWC does not grant a requested extension. Number 3, issue number 3, the Senate Bill 753 states that the new CRPs certified before the statutory deadline of September 1, 22 do not have to meet 753 requirements to be eligible to participate prior to that statutory deadline, or an extension date granted by TWC, whichever is later. The maximum extension that we can extend is 1 year. We're seeking direction on amending 806 to require that all entities that do not meet minimum wage requirements and that request CRP certification after the statutory date to request extension on March 1, 2022, and to meet minimum wage requirements by September 1, 22. Item number 4, granting exemptions from the minimum wage requirements. Senate Bill 753 allows but does not require TWC to exempt a CRP for employee from minimum wage requirements based on certain circumstances. We're seeking direction on amending 806 to allow exemptions to the minimum wage requirement and to establish criteria and the processes for granting those exemptions to the minimum wage requirements. Issue number 5, WIOA referrals to community rehab programs. 753 establishes connection to VR, but WIOA requirement for competitive integrated employment prevents CRPs from working with VR to offer employment opportunities due to the current 75% direct labor hour contribution by individuals with disabilities requirement in rule. The 75% requirement is not a statutory requirement, but one in rule. We're seeking direction on amending 806 to allow TWC to establish a percentage different than the 75% for a CRP that proposes to participate in the PPD program and offer employment opportunities for individuals with disabilities that meet the WIOA definition of competitive integrated employment. Number 6, compliance with state law. There is a requirement in law or rule that CRPs must comply with other laws, regulation, and agency requirement. We're seeking direction on amending 806 to require CRPs participating in PPD to be clear of any debts related to unemployment insurance, taxes, wage claims, and to meet state licensing, regulatory, and tax requirements applicable to the community rehab program. A CRP that does not meet these requirements would be involuntarily removed by revocation of their certification to participate in the program. Number 7, the PPD Advisory Committee. Current rules address the role of the advisory committee, but do not address how the committee's activity, advice, or recommendations will be communicated to the commission. We're seeking direction on amending 806 to clarify the method of communicating advice, activities, and/or recommendations of the advisory committee to the commission. Number 8, commission approval of products and services. The Human Resources Code does not require that the commission approve products and services. Rule does. We're seeking direction on amending 806 to allow the review and approval of products and services be conducted by the TWC's executive director or deputy executive director rather than the commission. Issue number 9, determination of a worker with a disability. The Human Resources Code and rule define disability for the PPD program, but do not address who can make the determination that someone has a disability. We're seeking direction on amending 806 to further clarify disability determination requirements by the effective date of Chapter 122 to include the following: the qualifications for the individuals or entities that determine and document whether an individual meets the definitions of a worker with a disability, and the requirement that the individual or entity making that determination be an independent, not a CRP entity. Issue number 10, use of contract labor. Rule requires that CRPs maintain payroll records, human resources functions, and other administrative functions, but do not specify that the CRP must be the employing unit. Staff seeks direction on amending Chapter 806 to require that the CRP or entity designated by the CRP to be the employing unit of workers with disabilities who are counted towards the CRP certification for the PPD program. Issue number 11, clarifying appreciable contribution and value added by individuals with disabilities. Rules define appreciable contribution and value added, but do not describe how the agency determines that that criteria is met. We're seeking direction on amending 806 to provide criteria for determining if duties performed by individuals with disabilities qualify as value added. For example, consideration of value added may afford some flexibility regarding labor market conditions relative to the proposed good or service and the degree to which duties and tasks performed by the individuals with disabilities employed by CRPs are transferable to the labor market. And finally, issue number 12, rule review of Chapter 806. Texas Government Code requires that every 4 years, every state agency review and consider readopt, revision, or repeal each rule adopted by that agency. The issues outlined in this policy concept result from a review of Chapter 806 consistent with the requirement of the Texas Government Code. We're seeking direction on including in the preamble of the rule amendments of Chapter 806 outlined in this policy concept a statement that the rules have been reviewed and pursuant to Texas Government Code. And that concludes all 12 items of the policy concept. I'm open to any questions that you may have.
All right, comments or questions?
None here, Chairman.
None here.
Thank you. Are there any motions?
I move that we approve the policy concept for amendments to Chapter 806 as discussed by staff.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and the motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Let's see, we have nothing under agenda item 13, statewide initiatives. Let's move to agenda item 14, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding guidance on resource utilization and implementation of services and strategies to target disaster relief efforts and public health emergencies, including those funded with the Department of Labor's Disaster Dislocated Worker Grant.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is Ed Serna, Executive Director. We really have no significant changes to report under this item, either in employment services or unemployment insurance or childcare. But I will say that we are seeing, continue to see a slight increase or uptick in the number of individuals that are returning into the system to file claims, continuing claims. Staff is also doing very good with regard to handling the workload that we are dealing with, but we have nothing else to report.
Okay. We'll move into agenda item 15, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding approval of local workforce development board nominees.
Good morning, Chairman Daniel. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, perfect. So good morning, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Dimerson, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Shanta Williams with the Workforce Development Division. And before you for consideration, we have Workforce Board nominees for Workforce Solutions, Brazos Valley, Cameron County, East Texas, North Central Texas, the Heart of Texas, Permian Basin, and Rural Capital Area. Staff recommends that all nominees be approved at this time, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Comments or questions?
No comments, Chairman.
None here.
Thank you. Do we have any motions?
I move to approve the board nominees for Brazos Valley, Cameron County, East Texas, North Central Texas, the Heart of Texas, Permian Basin, and Rural Capital Area.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a legislative report today?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Dimerson, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Tom McCarty, External Relations. Last night, the U.S. House Appropriations Committee released the draft text for their fiscal year 2021 Labor, Health and Human Services and Education Funding Bill. The House Appropriations Subcommittee on Labor, Health and Human Services and Education will be holding a markup on the bill later today. The draft bill includes $196.5 billion in overall funding, which is an increase of $2.4 billion above the fiscal year 2020 enacted levels and $20.8 billion above the President's fiscal year 2021 budget request. A summary of the funding levels in comparison to the President's budget proposal for fiscal year 2021 and fiscal year 2020 was sent to your offices last night. We'll continue to monitor the two congressional hearings this week. Today at noon is the U.S. House Financial Services Subcommittee on National Security, International Development, and Monetary Policy. Will be holding a hearing on paycheck security, economic perspectives on alternative approaches to protecting workers' pay during COVID-19. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the U.S. House Appropriations Subcommittee on Labor, Health and Human Services and Education will have their markup at 5 p.m. today. We continue to monitor congressional action on potential legislation that would provide further assistance to those affected by COVID-19. This concludes my remarks. I'm available if you have any questions to ask.
Okay. Questions or comments?
No questions for Tom at this time.
None.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Mr. Cerna, do you have anything on an executive director's report?
Nice and muted. Still nice and muted.
There I am. Sorry. I didn't want to interrupt Tom while he was talking. No, sir, I have nothing else to report.
Okay. Anything else that needs to come before the commission?
No, Chairman.
Good
Do
here.
we have a motion to adjourn?
Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
Second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. We're unanimous and we're adjourned. Thank you all.